So we finally have these September games revealed for Game Pass, but October, guys, is set to be one of the wildest months this year. If you guys are a fan of Game Pass, buckle up. I'm Sonny, your host, and today Deathloop finally sees a Game Pass release across PC, cloud, and Xbox Series X and S. Now here you play as Colt on a mission to assassinate 8 key targets within 24 hours. Now if you happen to fail, you have to start completely over, but each attempt has you learning new approaches to break the time loop. That means you're going to be finding new paths, new weapons and upgrades, and even new intel, all with the key approach of learning the best path forward. Now, one key aspect of the game is the player versus player, where someone can play your rival Juliana and completely disrupt your single player experience. Meanwhile, you can actually do the exact same thing to another player. Now, this portion of the game is completely optional. You also can just simply have the AI take over if you guys don't want to engage in PvP. Either way, guys, this is a very well-renowned game with a Metacritic score of 87, perfect review scores all across the board, and it joins Game Pass today. The next game on this list is Hardspace Shipbreaker. We've talked about this game before. It's dropped on PC, but it's finally joining the cloud and Xbox Series X and S today. It's a game about salvaging ships and making a profit. You'll then be upgrading your gear and tools to salvage even bigger and more dangerous ships and taking on even more lucrative contracts. If you guys like next-gen physics, breaking down ships and tearing them apart limb from limb, having just an overall relaxing time, I really think this is the game for you. And of course, like I said, it's available today. So if you guys ever thought about combining spiders and lightsabers, well, I'm sure you haven't, but the game Spider Heck has, and here you duel to the death against your friends or against a swarm of enemies. Spider Heck is a pretty unique fast-paced brawler with chaotic fights featuring multiple modes. You have the classic couch player versus player, or you can even go in with co-op as you take down tons of enemies together, or just simply battle to death in a specific arena style of play. Spider Heck launches on Game Pass on September 22nd for consoles and PC. And that brings us to our next game, Beacon Pines. This is a cute but rather creepy adventure set within a mysterious book where you play as both the reader and the main character, Luca. Now, there's quite a few things happening here because you'll help Luca investigate the strange happenings in Beacon Pine, but you'll also be collecting items that you're going to use at certain points of the story as fill-ins to dramatically change the course of the entire story and book. And as a reader, you start to navigate those crucial points in the story that really make it interactive as you choose the outcomes that'll set off a different path each time. And the game really does encouraging unraveling the story at your pace, really getting the outcome you want piece by piece. Beacon Pines hits Game Pass on September 22nd for the cloud, console, and PC. Now, a game that I'm really looking forward to, guys, is Slime Rancher 2, where you play as Beatrix, a young rancher who makes her living wrangling up slimes. If you guys are not familiar with this game, jumping into the second one shouldn't be too much of a problem. Really, guys, the goal here is to discover new colorful slimes, all with their own unique types of personalities and traits. You'll be wrangling them up, all the while exploring a brand new rainbow island that is just chock full of ancient secrets and mysteries, and of course, slimes will literally be all over the place. The cool thing is that you'll be collecting slimes, you'll also be collecting resources, you'll be upgrading your equipment, you'll be building up new gadgets, all the while exploring this new island. It's a very relaxing title. If you guys love to catch things and explore, I really think you're going to fall in love with this game. Slime Rancher 2 comes out on September 22nd for the cloud, PC, and Xbox Series X and S. Now, while Moonscars might just be an indie title, guys, under the surface, this has been one of my most anticipated Souls-like games this year. From the jump, the visuals really stand out, not only because of the 2D Souls-like combat and those gorgeous animations, but the bloody gore that completely does shift the visuals from the game background, and it really emphasizes each devastating hit you make to enemies. Now, the game is anything but linear since it is a Metroidvania, so don't be fooled by the 2D, but the story in this game, guys, is you're going to be fighting off a darkness that is set to consume you. You can tell this is a very dark game, one where the difficulty and your skill is really going to matter the most. Moonscars clearly takes its inspiration from the game Blasphemous, but it brings its own unique world. There's also a lot of hardcore mechanics in play. One that stands out is where if you end up dying, you're going to have to fight a mirror of yourself to get back your skills and powers. Dying will be very costly in this game. This will not be for the faint of heart. Moonscars hits Game Pass on September 27th across cloud, console, and PC. Now, this game's been an Xbox game preview on PC for some time, but finally should see a Game Pass release, hopefully across consoles and Proteus. This is a first-person shooter of old, only reimagined with modern tech. To me, the game looks gorgeous, guys. It's full on with gore, action, and really fun gameplay. It has these over-the-top explosions and mayhem. There's going to be a full campaign. There's going to be co-op with a buddy, and even competitive multiplayer if that's your thing, and a full-blown level editor that that lets others enjoy the maps that you guys create. This should be hitting Game Pass hopefully on September 23rd. Finally, the game Grounded, guys, hitting his 1.0 update as it's been in early access since 2020. If you guys are not familiar, it's one of the more unique takes on the survival genre, only you play as these little tiny humans in a backyard full of hordes and giant insects. Now, unlike other survival games, Grounded does not have a player versus player, but it does have the normal survival tropes, that being full-on base building, crafting, exploring, and even just generally surviving against these insanely dangerous insects instead of other players. Now, the 1.0 update finally finishes the story campaign as well. You're going to be diving into a full-blown narrative in this unique world. There's also new stuff like new armor pieces, new weapons, and a new deadly giant bosses you'll be fighting, which I have to say, the boss battles in this game are absolutely epic. Not only that, this game is completely playable solo, so if you guys don't want to dive in with buddies, you don't have to, but if you have some, you can absolutely jump in there with them. This is one of the most unique survival games to release to date. This hits across cloud, consoles, and PC on September 27th. So Let's Build a Zoo's a sandbox title where you are creating your own zoo from scratch. You can breed rare creatures, you can even DNA splice, you can make your own unique critter to attract new visitors. You'll also hire staff, keep visitors happy, and there's going to be a lot of random events happening throughout your playthrough. There's over 100 animals you can feature in your own zoo. There's really a lot of cool things you can build here, and there's really no shortage of things to do in this game. Let's Build a Zoo hits Game Pass on September 29th for cloud, console, and PC. So Valheim is hitting Game Pass on PC first on the 29th of this month. It will be coming to consoles at a later date. This is the survival sandbox title based on Vikings lore, where you build, gather, craft, and take on some pretty insanely cool epic boss fights. If you guys haven't played it yet, I encourage it. It's been one of my personal favorite survival games of the past few years. Now, a game that has seen a delay but should be available on the 29th this month is Despot Depot. This is a roguelike tactics army builder. I've talked about this game a lot. It should finally hit soon if you guys have been wondering where it's been. And then our final title on Game Pass this September, guys, is Paw Patrol Grand Prix. This is a similar game in the vein of Mario Kart Racing, only you get to play as your favorite pup from Paw Patrol. The game does feature 11 tracks, a multiplayer championship mode, and of course the 4-player split screen. If you guys have a fan of Paw Patrol in the house, maybe a little tyke, this could be an absolute blast for some really wholesome fun. Paw Patrol should be on Game Pass on September 30th for the cloud, consoles, and PC. Finally, guys, let's take a quick look into the October games for Game Pass, and guys, it's looking pretty stacked. We're gonna go in order from release date, starting with Coral Island. Here you're set to build your dream farm, where each season that passes, the story of the game changes. This has all the normal farming sim features you'd expect, like you're gonna be tending crops, you'll be tending to animals, you'll be building bonds with people and animals alike, but there's also full-blown romance as well. There's 20 singles across the game, so lots of people to engage with. This is one of the more anticipated farm sim-like games this year, and it is hitting Game Pass on October 11th. So Evil is the next new multiplayer hopping into the scene as it takes huge inspirations from the game Among Us. You're either going to play as the villain or the villager as you try to pull off secret murders as the villain. This one hits Game Pass on October 11th. Our next game is Dyson Sphere Program, a strategy management game about running intergalactic factories in space as you work to develop your starting workshop into a full-blown galaxy-wide industrial powerhouse. This one hits Game Pass on October 13th. Now, a game that I have been waiting for all year, guys, and one of the biggest new titles set to hit Game Pass is Plague Tale Requiem. Here you're going to continue and follow the story of Amisha and Hugo as they attempt to start a new life and help Hugo with his curse. Now, Requiem tells a pretty intense story of survival, but this year the game is really bringing it to another level, guys, with its stunning visuals and gameplay. Now, while this is an action adventure title, most times than not, you're not looking to get into fights head on like other games. Here you're going to want to use a variety of tools at your disposal to survive throughout and get an upper hand on the enemy. So far, first impressions of this game have been giving it good reviews, and this might be one of the year's best gems on Game Pass, period, guys. Expect to see Requiem on October 18th. So Persona 5 Royal is making its way onto Game Pass, guys. This has been one of the better entries in the series of this JRPG franchise. The special editions coming in with tons of new content, previously released DLC, more story, and more places to explore. We'll of course talk more about this game next month, but this one is set to hit Game Pass on October 21st. Now, another game that I've been looking forward to hit Game Pass is Scorn. This is an atmospheric first-person horror adventure that is sure to give you chills right in time for Halloween. The game does contain a big story you'll be following. This is set to hit Game Pass on October 21st. Now, in another survival horror game, we have Sign finalist. Here you play as Esther in search of her lost partner and her lost dreams while discovering terrifying secrets. This hits Game Pass on October 27th. So Gunfire Reborn makes its way onto Game Pass. You're going to play as different heroes with different abilities in a first-person roguelike adventure. Each level you go through is procedurally generated with random weapons you'll equip through each playthrough. The game does promise that each level you play is completely different from the other experiences, in which there's going to be different heroes, different weapons, and even combat changes quite a bit from playthrough to playthrough. The game is also available to play completely solo or with you and up to 3 players. This hits Game Pass at the end of October. And our final game that we know so far is Marauders. This is a sci-fi tactical first-person shooter where you are alone or up to 3 players trying to survive some pretty intense combat encounters, not only in just crazy sci-fi gunfights, but even in sci-fi dogfights in space, as you can even upgrade your ship with resources you scavenge, but you'll also be hunting for loot that you'll see throughout your encounters, and of course you'll be crafting your own weapons and gear. The gameplay looks excellent on this, guys, and you'll be raiding other ships and settlements and completely taking them out, all for the purpose of your own survival at all costs. Marauders is set to hit Game Pass the next month. With that, this September, guys, keep in mind you guys can also play FIFA 23 completely free for up to 10 hours with EA Play, available for Game Pass Ultimate members. So while you don't get to keep the game or anything, you get 10 hours completely free to try out FIFA 23. It launches on September 27th. And lastly, guys, we have the games leaving Game Pass this September 30th. Sadly, there's a lot of games here, so I'm just going to throw the list up on the screen. We have Subnautica Below Zero, Slime Rancher 1, Dirt 4, and Dirt Rally. These are some of the key games here on the list. As always, you guys have a 20% discount if you want to buy these games before they leave Game Pass, and you guys also don't want to miss huge Game Pass games that were announced recently at the Xbox Showcase in Tokyo and more, so check out that video on the screen.